The courtroom buzzed quietly. Lawyers whispered, reporters adjusted their cameras, and spectators checked their feeds. Then the door opened. Elon Musk stepped in, hands folded in front of him, dressed in a sharp black suit with no tie. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He walked straight to the defense table and sat down. At the bench, Judge Anthony Trenga peered over his glasses with a smirk that could slice steel. "Mr. Musk," he began, voice dripping with irony, "I must say, I wasn't expecting a tech billionaire to look so grounded." Some light chuckles echoed from the back rows. Elon said nothing, his face unreadable. Trenga continued, flipping through a stack of papers without looking up. "Your team's recent regulatory innovation, that's what you called it, right, has landed you in a federal courtroom. You do know this isn't a TED Talk, correct?" The tension in the room thickened. A reporter tweeted mid-hearing, "Trenga's roasting Musk like it's stand-up night." But Elon simply reached for a tablet beside him, powered it on, and waited. Not defensive, not shaken, just focused. Trenga raised an eyebrow. "I trust you're not about to present a PowerPoint." "No, sir," Elon replied calmly, "but I'd like to show you something." Trenga leaned back, clearly amused. "Proceed. Let's hope it's more compelling than your last quarterly earnings." Elon stood, walked slowly to the front, and tapped the screen. What appeared was a short video, a 10-year-old girl in rural Nevada switching on her lights for the first time, thanks to a Tesla-powered microgrid. The room stilled, because mockery is loud, but proof? Proof is silent and undeniable. The screen faded into a series of graphs and real-time footage. Clean energy grids, decommissioned diesel stations, communities that had power for the first time in years. "Since last year," Elon said calmly, "our decentralized solar network has reached 172 underserved areas. We've reduced dependency on fossil fuels in 4 of the most pollution-heavy states." Judge Trenga leaned back, arms crossed. "And yet, Mr. Musk," he said with a sneer, "you skipped 2 environmental review panels, and your team didn't file 3 of the required federal waivers." Elon nodded. "You're right, and if we had followed the full timeline, those towns would still be in the dark." Trenga raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying your company is above the law?" "No," Elon said, holding Trenga's gaze. "I'm saying the law needs to catch up, because lives don't pause for paperwork." A murmur moved through the courtroom. The next slide showed a child breathing through an oxygen mask. Elon's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "This is from East Chicago, a child whose asthma attacks were directly tied to proximity to an outdated coal facility." He tapped again, showing a photo taken 2 months later. Same child, same home, but now she's drawing solar panels on her bedroom wall instead of windows that won't open. Even Trenga went quiet, because logic can be challenged, but lived truth settles deep. And while the judge's words said rules, his eyes whispered something else. "I didn't know." By the next morning, clips from Elon's court appearance had gone viral. No dramatic speeches, no yelling, just facts, a child's photo, and silence that said more than words. On social media, the tag "Listen to Musk" trended globally. A pediatrician in Ohio posted, "I treat kids like this every week. Musk didn't bend the rules to be reckless. He bent them because no one else showed up." Thousands echoed the sentiment. Across the country, green energy advocates, teachers, parents, even retired judges spoke out. On national television, a former EPA official said, If the law delays solutions that save lives, then we have to ask, what is the law really protecting? Outside the courthouse, a quiet but growing crowd gathered. Handmade signs read, "Justice shouldn't block progress." "Solar saved my town." "Regulate intelligently, not emotionally." Inside, Judge Trenga sat in chambers watching a reel of the coverage. He rubbed his temples. His aide stood near the door, unsure whether to speak. "Sir," she said carefully, "we've had over 40 amicus briefs filed overnight, including 3 from former federal energy advisors." He didn't answer, just stared at the paused frame. Elon, standing in court, holding up a photo, not of a factory, but of a little girl smiling beside a solar panel. The weight on his desk had shifted. The law still mattered, but for the first time in his career, it wasn't the loudest thing in the room. Bolam Fort, The Turning Point, 300 Kilim, Daily American English. Judge Anthony Trenga returned to the bench with his usual straight posture, but the sharpness in his voice had dulled. "Mr. Musk," he began, slower this time, "the court has reviewed your supplemental materials and public response." He glanced up, only briefly, but enough for Elon to notice the hesitation. "This hearing is about procedure, not popularity." Elon nodded once. "Understood. But procedures exist to serve people, not to leave them behind." He walked to the screen again, but didn't play a video. Instead, he pulled something from his inner jacket pocket. A crayon drawing, folded and taped. "This is from a child in Texas. His school runs on one of our microgrids. He doesn't know what regulations mean. He just knows the lights stay on." He gently laid the drawing on the bench. "The law you uphold is important, but so is the world we're trying to keep alive." The room was silent again. Judge Trenga stared at the paper in front of him. A sun with a smile. Solar panels on a school rooftop. And 5 words written in shaky handwriting. "Thank you for my light." He cleared his throat, shifted in his seat, looked down, then finally looked Elon in the eyes. "Is it regulation you fear, or being wrong?" Elon didn't flinch. "Neither. I fear doing nothing, when everything depends on doing something." For a moment, Trenga said nothing. Because sometimes, a courtroom doesn't need a verdict. It needs a mirror. The next day, Judge Trenga returned to the bench, not with a gavel in his hand, but with the crayon drawing in a protective sleeve. He held it up before speaking. "In my decades behind this bench," he said slowly, "I've ruled on complex contracts, corporate fraud, and constitutional crises." He paused. "But sometimes, a child's drawing says what the law forgets." Elon sat still, listening. Trenga turned toward him. "Mr. Musk, this court finds that while your team did violate procedural timelines, your intent and your outcomes reveal a larger flaw, not in your company, but in our system's ability to keep pace with human need." Gasps. Even the stenographer looked up. The official ruling: no fine, no sanction, but a recommendation, co-authored by this bench, to launch an independent task force, the National Tech Ethics Council. A reporter whispered, "Wait, with Elon?" Trenga nodded. "With Elon Musk, and anyone else willing to make progress responsibly." Elon finally spoke. "I accept, on one condition." The room held its breath. "We don't just study policy. We build real-world pilots, solar schools, clean water, rural access." Trenga smirked. This time, not with sarcasm, but with something closer to respect. Then let's make justice actionable. Headlines exploded. Judge who mocked Musk now partners with him. Solar Council announced in landmark court decision. And in schools across the country, the lights stayed on a little longer that night. Not just because of power, but because of alignment. 6 months later, the first solar access lab opened in Baton Rouge. It wasn't some government vanity project. It was built with Tesla engineers, local students, and the same community that once powered their classrooms with diesel fumes. Inside, a plaque hung in the entrance hall. This building exists because one man didn't apologize. He innovated. Visitors walked through interactive displays, a live solar dashboard, a VR courtroom reenactment, and a children's art wall filled with sun drawings. In the middle of the floor, behind glass, the original crayon drawing, the one Elon had handed Judge Trenga. The caption simply read, "Thank you for my light." At the grand opening, Judge Trenga stood at the podium beside Elon. No robes, just a simple gray suit. "Justice should be more than judgment," he told the crowd. "It should be permission, permission to do better when better is finally possible." He turned to Elon, offering a polished miniature solar panel engraved, "For when proof speaks louder than pride." Elon smiled and nodded. "We didn't fix everything, but we built the start. And the start is always the hardest part." That night, children across the country submitted their own designs for the next Polar Pilot site. Thousands poured in, some with words, some with light. And in homes that had once gone dark by 6:00 p.m., hallways now glowed well past bedtime. Not just with electricity, but with the kind of hope only real change can power.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe for more inspiring stories.